Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Emerson Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Reverend Ed Proulx, and I am the minister here, and it's good to see everybody here. How did you survive the snow? Did everyone survive the snow okay? Snow. I'm from New Hampshire, so when it snows, it's a little different. So it snowed on Tuesday, snow was gone by Thursday, and it's 70 degrees on Sunday. You need to make up your mind. You can't have everything. Just pick one. I find the weather hilarious. Okay, I don't know. Welcome. I would like to also introduce Zena Taylor, who will be our worship associate this morning. Zena currently serves the congregation in many ways. Thank you for all you do, Zena. You're a rock, and I appreciate you. If you are still a little new around here and interested in learning more about Unitarian Universalism or this particular church, we will have Nancy Lipp will be hosting a New to UU meeting in the library after services. So one thing I ask people to do is, if you're interested in this church, come back 7 times, because the sessions, every Sunday changes so much. Like today's going to be a lot of Christianity. That's not a usual thing. So I want you to, if you think that this could be part of your faith journey, come back 7 times. If you've come back 7 times or close to 7 times, and you're seriously thinking that this could be part of your long-term faith journey or longer-term faith journey, I would invite you upstairs today for the meeting after the service. If you're not coming to the meeting, come join us for coffee out in the gathering place. Coffee and conversation will be available out there to everybody. And after that, if you're hungry, which I do know that most of you eat, please come with us to Craft Pita, which is over on Fountain View, right? Okay. And then for those of you who haven't been here 7 times, I'd like to welcome you. For everybody in the room, if we're adding a new feature to our welcome this morning, to our invitation to worship this morning, and this is something that I saw at the Austin church that they do up at the Austin UU church. We have members of the lay pastoral ministry team here. We call them the LPMT members. You can tell them because they have a yellow badge. We have a couple here today. They're sitting in the back. You don't have to sit in the back to be an LPMT member, but that seems to be a trend. We have, with his hand up, Ian, and then Suzanne and Lane. They have yellow name tags. Oh, and Stephen Lipp, thank you, behind me, snuck up behind me. Thank you. What I'd like to do is in the offering, in this welcome, is if something comes up in the service that causes you some sort of concern or some sort of personal conflict, if I say something that makes you angry or makes you sad or whatever during the service, we'd like to point you out to these people. Please feel free to talk to these people after the service if there is something that you need to get off your chest because of the service. You always feel free to talk to me as well, but not everybody can do that, and not everybody can do that easily, especially today because I'm going to run away and go up to this new UU meeting. So we'd like to introduce this idea of relying on the LPMT team for when things in the service hit a nerve for you. And we'll do that from now on. This is the first time I've done it, so I wanted to give you a little bit longer example of that. If you are still a little new around here, there are yellow cards in the back of your pews. If you'd like to be put on our mailing list, we will give you 2 emails a week so that you know what is going on here so that you can integrate yourself into this congregation. And that, I believe, is all I have for announcements this morning. So I would like to welcome Artem. Hello, Artem. How are you? You good? Would you like to play a song for us, maybe? Let's have it. There we go.
And now we transition into our sacred time together, a time of reverence, a time of attention, a time of intention. I invite you to join us this time, marked by the lighting of our chalice flame. I'd like to invite Janet to come forward and light our chalice flame in the sanctuary. And I invite those of you at home to light a candle where you are to join us in spirit. We mark this sacred time with words, important words that bring us into a time of collection intention. This morning and for the month of January, our chalice lighting words come from the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, who died in December at the age of 100. Please join me in reading these words together as they appear on the screen. You just have to have a simple faith. Emerson is a beloved community of faith, reason, and affection. We welcome all to grow in mind and spirit as we build a better world. We do this by gathering to seek, learn, and grow, and in the course of our work to promote love among each other, our congregation, and the wider community here in Houston. Whether you're here in this sanctuary or joining us virtually, we welcome you. No matter where you are in your personal spiritual journey, we invite you to live, learn, and grow with us. As a covenantal community, we aspire to promote love, fellowship, and social justice, as well as support for your personal growth. Please join me in our welcoming. The words should appear on the screen. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here. This is the time in the service when we usually have This Week in Unitarian Universalist History with Richard Cummins, but I don't see Richard. Is he here? Okay, we'll move on.
Each week, my friends, we gather and we hear words of our 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism. Today, we are hearing the words of C.S. Lewis. Lewis was a British writer, a literary scholar, and an Anglican lay theologian who lived until 1963. In the process of his life, he published more than 30 books. Most of his books were focused on Christian, nonfiction Christian apologetics. However, his most known books that you might know, which you might not know were Christian apologetics hidden in fiction, were the Chronicles of Narnia and then the Screwtape Letters, which was a wild play if you've ever seen it, and the Space Trilogy. Lewis was very close friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote The Lord of the Rings. Here are his words this morning from probably one of his most read books called Mere Christianity. He says, "Now, the whole offer which Christianity makes is this, that we can, if we let God have his way, come to share in the life of Christ. If we share in this kind of life, we also shall be sons of God. Every Christian is to become a little Christ. The whole purpose of becoming a Christian is simply nothing else. He said that he meaning Jesus, said that we are God's, and he is going to make good on his words if we let him, for we can prevent him if we choose. He will make the feeblest and filthiest of us into a god or goddess, a dazzling, radiant, immortal creature, pulsating all the way through with such energy and joy and wisdom and love as we cannot now imagine, a bright, stainless mirror which reflects back to God perfectly His own boundless power and delight and goodness. The process will be long and in parts very painful, but that is what we are in it for. Nothing less. He meant what He said. And now, with our chalices lit here and at home, welcome to everybody joining us from home, and our minds and hearts centered on our readings, we offer to sing a song together. Let's sing a hymn. You may stand if you are willing and able, or you may stay seated, whatever you're more comfortable with, but either way, please help us sing. And our first hymn this morning is number 405, Do This in Memory of Me.
Each time we gather, we ask your help in fulfilling this church's mission. The success of this church and of the principles we support is made possible through the work of our members and by members and friends' financial support. We honor that support by striving to live the mission of this place fully and wholeheartedly. Here at Emerson, this collection does not go to funding our work, which is funded through our pledges of financial support. This collection each week goes to fund the work of important partners of Emerson who, in our opinion, live out our Unitarian Universalist values in our community and in the world beyond our community. The act of giving our financial support is both a transformative spiritual act and one way we live our values. 75% of today's offering will go to our January recipient, Justice Forward. Justice Forward, formerly Harris County Drug Court, was founded as a social justice task force in 2003 by members of Emerson. The drug court has changed its name and expanded its mission, but remains true to its purpose, which is to allow a middle way to keep people whose addictions lead them to commit nonviolent crimes out of prison by providing therapeutic rather than criminal justice system solutions. The remaining 25% of today's offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which provides thousands of meals every day to Houston's homebound seniors. You can go to our webpage for online giving, put cash or a check in our offering plates up here or the box in the back, or mail a check to the church. During the offering music, children who want to attend their RE class may follow Mackenzie to their classrooms.
On behalf of everyone here at Emerson, I would like to thank everyone who donated this month to Justice Forward. When we choose partners, we look for partners whose work will multiply. And Justice Forward is such an important multiplier of work. It keeps people out of jail. It keeps things off their criminal record so they can get jobs, which means their kids can go to school, and it gives them a chance. So it is absolutely super important, that work. And I've had a lot of experience with that area, and I'd like to tell you that keeping these people out of jail is probably one of the most important things we do here at Emerson by our support of the Justice Forward organization and by setting it up. Were any of you on the board who set it up? Any? 1, 2, don't be shy. This is great stuff. 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm seeing a finger. 4.5, 4.5, yeah, okay. That came from here. When you go on their website, the first thing you see is a picture of Emerson. That's how important it is to them. So we've reached the part of our service where we have a meditation, and I'd like to invite you all to find a comfortable spot today for your meditation. Sit comfortably, preferably with your feet on the floor. I'm going to read to you today during the meditation. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to hear the words in a different context. This is what I asked you to do last week, and I'm asking you to do the same thing. I'd like you to sit in your quiet today and imagine yourself as listening to these words coming from a pulpit, from a teacher or a preacher, which is a different way of hearing them. What they are, what I'm going to read to you, is the very end of what is normally referred to as the Sermon on the Mount from Jesus. And this end section, this is what he ends with, okay? That's important. He ends with this subsection called being and doing. So I'd like to just hear and let these words ooze into you, even if there's some aversion to you in Christianity, just let it, this is wisdom here, folks. Let it flow into you. So he says in the beginning of this section, he says, don't look for shortcuts to God. The market, and by the way, I'm reading from the message translation. So it's a modern translation, a very modern translation. So the euphemisms, the writer tried to put it into a modern language using the euphemisms that he read. So he says, don't look for shortcuts to God. The market is flooded with surefire, easygoing formulas for successful life that can be practiced in your spare time. Don't fall for all that stuff, Jesus says, even though crowds of people do. The way to life is through God. It is vigorous and requires total attention. Be wary of false preachers who smile a lot, dripping with practiced sincerity. Chances are they're out to rip you off in some way or another. Don't be impressed with charisma. Look for character. Who preachers are is the main thing, not what they say. A genuine teacher, a genuine leader, will never exploit your emotions or your pocketbook. These diseased trees with their bad apples are going to be chopped down and burned. Knowing the correct password, saying, "Master, Master," for instance, isn't going to get you anywhere with me. What is required is a serious obedience, doing what my Father wills. I can see it now at the final judgment, thousands strutting up to me and saying, "Master, we preached the message, we bashed the demons," or super spiritual projects had everyone talking about you. And do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say, you missed the boat. All you did was use me to make yourselves important. You don't impress me one bit. Get out of here. These words I speak to you are not incidental additions to your life, homeowner improvements to your standard of living. They are foundational words, words to build a life on. If you work these words into your life, you are like a smart carpenter who built his house on solid rock. Rain poured down, the river flooded, a tornado hit, but nothing moved that house. It was fixed to the rock. But if you use my words in your Bible studies and don't work them into your life, you're like a stupid carpenter who built his house on a sandy beach. When a storm rolled in and the waves came up, it collapsed the house like a house of cards. When Jesus concluded his address, the crowd burst into applause. They had never heard teaching like this. It was apparent that he was living everything he was saying, quite a contrast to their religion teachers. This was the best teaching they had ever heard.
Our second reading this morning comes from the UU World magazine. This article, published nearly 20 years ago, summarizes a 3-year Commission on Appraisal study and conversation that, although it did not result in a complete consensus about a common core to our faith, no real surprise there, I suppose, it did uncover much common ground. The article offered these headlines as descriptive statements of who the Commission revealed Unitarian Universalists are theologically. We are a grounded faith with roots, however lightly held, that go back 2,000 years and more. We are an ecological faith with a vision of interconnectedness with the World Wide Web of all being placed squarely at the center of our shared worldview. We are a profoundly human faith, charged with loving our neighbor and ending the suffering of all sentient beings, and acknowledge that our understandings are imperfect. We are a reasonable faith, responding to our deep sense of interconnectedness with both the natural and the human worlds. We are an experiential faith, focused more on experience, our own and that of trusted others, past and present, than beliefs. We are a free faith, based in the authenticity and integrity of each individual's journey. We are an imaginative faith, devoted to making a place where creativity can flourish. We are a relational faith, grounding our individual journeys in caring community. We are a covenantal faith, held together by our chosen commitment to each other rather than by creed, authority, or truth. We need not think alike to love alike. We are a curious faith, aware that our perspective is limited, that we could be wrong, that we live in the midst of uncertainties, yet we are ever open to new insights. We are a reasonable faith, challenging idolatries, especially our own, positive toward the findings of science, while questioning the values that at times motivate choices in that area, as in every other. We are a hopeful faith, a faith of possibilities, aspiring to be a transformative, justice-seeking faith.
Okay, so we are all those things, or at least we think we're all those things, which is a good start, right? But today, we're talking about, are we Christian? Now, to understand whether or not we're Christian, you're going to have to come back on a historical journey with me. And I know that a lot of you love history in sermons. I'm not a big fan. So I want you to remember this sermon when you complain that I never do history in sermons, okay? Because I will remember it. Okay. So to understand whether we're Christian or not, you have to understand what the word Christian is and what it means. Okay? And to do that, you have to come with me back to the time of Christ. Christianity starts with Christ. Okay? So Jesus lives. Now, there's some question about Jesus' life and how historical, authentic it is. That's not necessary for this conversation. That's a whole different sermon. So Jesus lives, and he's executed, and he dies, and his friends go out, and they start talking about Jesus' message. And this message starts to grow and grow, and it starts out in what we now call Palestine or Israel, and it starts to move out. These people decide to evangelize. They decide to take the message of Jesus and go. Tell other people about the message of Jesus. What they bring with them, for right now, this is a non-scientific word. No one will know what you're talking about if you repeat it, but I call this Jesusism, because it's not yet Christianity. These people were Jews, and they thought they were Jews. The whole idea of Christianity comes a little later. So these people, these friends of Jesus, and then the friends of Jesus, they take the message of Jesus out. They take Jesusism out to the Mediterranean area. They go out and they start meeting other people. And these other people already have ideas about how the world runs and how the world operates. So up come these Jesusites, and they say to these new people in, let's say, Africa or Syria or Greece, or maybe as far away as France, well, they didn't call it that then, but Gaul, right, all the way over there. And they meet all these people who already have religions. They already have practices. They understand the world as well as you understand the world right now. They understood their world. And up come these Jesusites with their Jesusism, and they say, yeah, that's, okay, this is the way the world is. Now, they're not always welcome, because some people don't take to being told they're wrong in quite the same way. But they figure it out. These are smart people who, just like you and me, if you had a message you wanted to bring someplace, you'd find a way to get that message out, right? And that's what they did. They found people who they would say, oh, but Jesus says this. And they found people who would say, oh, you mean this. They found ways to connect with people who already had beliefs. They found ways that Jesusism connected with the people who were living there and understood the world. And they found ways that their religion made sense to those people, because that's what they were there to do. They were there to get these people to understand them, right? And that's what they did. So what happened is, throughout the Mediterranean, Christianity, or Jesusism, went out and met these people, and it changed because it met those people. And then it met those people, and it changed because it met those people. That's just what happens, folks, right? That's just what happens. It modified itself to make sense to the people who are living here, there, and everywhere. And things were going all right for about 500 years, little less than that, when this guy, Constantine, a Roman emperor, decided, you know what? I like Christianity. My mother's Christian. We're going to make Christianity the religion of the Roman Empire. And Christianity went, yeah. And he went, not so fast. There are too many different versions of Christianity. You get these people over here believe one thing, those people believe something else, those people believe something else. They've all got their own way of looking at things. They've all got their own rituals. No. So the Roman Empire was really, really good at organizing, right? That's what they did. They had one guy in charge, top down, everybody in charge, everybody stand in line, get in line. So that's what they did. They took Christianity and they made it one thing. Of course, in the process of making it this one thing, and by the way, the Romans didn't do it. The Romans invited the Christians to these conferences, and they said, okay, pick one, basically. And they did, and they picked one. And what they did to Christianity at the time was they created winners and losers. So certain ideas, certain ways of looking at Jesusism were told, no, you're wrong. And lots of people lost their lives, by the way. And, by the way, two of the ways of looking at Jesusism that were thrown away and dubbed to be heretical were Unitarian Christianity and Universalist Christianity. We'll get back to that in a minute. So you get this homogeneous That's the word, right? Everybody the same? Yeah. Homogeneous Christianity, and that goes really well for about 500 years. These little 500-year increments. So 500 years later, the people in the East decide that they don't want to listen to the people in the West anymore. And now that's really the Reader's Digest version, but that's the nuts and bolts of it. And you have what's called the Great Schism. That's how you end up with the the Russian Orthodox Church and the Greek Orthodox Church and the Syrian Orthodox Church and the Armenian Orthodox. You end up with all these Orthodox churches, right? All they did was they said, we don't have to listen to the Pope. And the Pope said, yes, you do. And they said, no, we don't. And there was an argument, and that was that. And they went their own way, okay? So we see Christianity starting to break back up again, okay? Now you fast forward another 500 years, and there's this angry dude, German dude, who really gets upset at something the Roman Church is doing. Now, the Roman Church had something that was, the reason why it's called the Roman Catholic Church is because, for the first 500 years, it was the only church. Well, that's not true. There was the Coptic Church and the Ethiopian Church, but they're not really part of this discussion. They've been operating on their own through this whole process without any real interference from the Roman Church. So this German dude named Martin Luther gets upset, and you start he gets upset and he protests, so you get a Protestant revolution. And the Protestant Revolution, these other churches break off, right? You get the German church, the German Catholic Church, which is the Lutherans, and the English Catholic Church, which is the Anglicans. And I'm really summarizing here, but so you get all these little breakaway churches that are mostly geographically based, but not exclusively. Different ways of looking at Christianity that were coming off of this sort of uniform version of Christianity. Out of there, in this little place way over here called America, about 500, 600 years later, you get these people that move to America. And they're here in America, and there's no phones and no internet, if you can believe it, and no way to ask questions of religious authorities back in England or back in Germany or back in whatever. So we start our own hierarchical infrastructure here. And little churches start to develop. And one of the churches that starts to develop was a Protestant church that was protesting the Protestants. So I don't know what you would call that. It's double Protestant. And that church was called the Unitarian Church. Now, the Unitarian Church was originally called the Non-Trinitarian Church because what they didn't like was the idea of the Trinity. And they didn't want to call themselves Unitarians because Unitarian was a slander. It was a bad word. It was like, oh, you dumb Unitarian. You believe there's only one God, not three, right? So these Unitarians, until one day, one minister in Baltimore stuck his stake in the ground and said, you know what? We are Unitarians. We're just going to call ourselves that now. And that's how the Unitarian Church came up. Now, the theology of Unitarianism is very old. It's back in Jesusism. Along the same lines, you had the Universalist Church also come out of the Christian church. The Universalist Church believed that through Jesus' salvation, we were all saved from hell. Universal salvation. There were two kinds of universal salvation. We don't have to get into that right now, but universal salvation. So you had these two churches clearly coming out of the Christian faith, clearly coming out of the Christian church. You only have to go back 2 hymnals with us to see that we were really Christian. And this particular church was sort of known as a really Christian church. Not that long ago, like in the 80s. Not that long ago. So, are we Christian? Well, we certainly come out of Christianity. There's no doubt about that. Our genes are Christian. But the question remains is, are we Christian now? Well, we can claim the heredity, sure, that's fine. But just because you can claim a heredity doesn't make you what your heredity says, right? We know that, right? Are we Christian? Well, what a lot of us do when we answer the question, are we Christian, is we look at how other Christians define Christianity. And believe me, there are enough different definitions of Christianity out there that you can find one that may or may not work for you. But what we do is we allow ourselves to be defined by other people's definition of something that they can't agree on. So I ask you, are we Christian? Well, by their definition, I would have to say no, right? Because some of the definitions I've heard are, do you have a personal relationship with Jesus? Do you believe Jesus is the Lord and Savior? You can keep going, right? There's several core things that you have to believe to be a Christian. And I would suggest to you that we have not held to those traditions. We certainly don't ask you to believe something to be a member here. We don't sit you down and say, okay, here are the 5 things you need to believe. Go memorize them and come back. We should, unless you're laughing, but I mean, we should at least do something like that, but we don't, because we believe that you're each open to find your own way. Is that a Christian thing? It doesn't sound like the Christianity that I know, but I'm not precluding the fact that there might be a version of Christianity for whom that does work. I have heard us called post-Christian. I've heard someone say, someone much smarter than me, which isn't that hard anyway, I have heard someone say that if you take tradition off of Christianity, this is what you get. Right? If you take the rules off of what you need to believe, what you have to believe, this is what you get. I've heard someone say, again, smarter than me, very interesting article that I read that said if Jesus came back today, he'd either be a Unitarian Universalist or a Reformed Jew. Probably a Reformed Jew because he was Jewish, right? But a very liberal, accepting, grounded in virtue, faith, grounded in virtue, rather than being grounded in a necessity of belief. So that's where we're different than Christianity, right? We're no longer, and I say no longer specifically because we came out of that. So you can't say we evolved parallel to it. We did not evolve parallel to it. This is 200 years ago we came out of Christianity. It's not that long ago in religious terms. So are we Christian? Well, you have to decide for yourself. But it's hard to decide if you anchor your definition of Christian in other people's definitions of Christianity, which is why I read to you the readings today that I read to you, right? If you do these things, maybe you are Christian and you just don't know it. Or maybe you are Christian and they just don't know it. You don't know. That's why I think that the old adage that says when you put a name on something, you kill it, I think that's really true. So are we Christian? I don't care. Great if we are, great if we're not. Some of you are devout Christians. You believe in certain tenets of the Christian church, which one of the Christian churches. Good for you. What I care about is how that influences your life, how you bring that into your life, how you bring that into living. Why is that important to you? And why does it matter to you? Not what it is. So, I want you to think about, because you know, if you know me at all, you knew damn well coming into this sermon that even though it was a question, I wasn't going to give you an answer. And I did not give you an answer. I gave you more questions. So think, are we Christian? I don't know. If I define myself by what they say, no, I'm not. But if I define myself by what that reading said, I think I might be. right? And that makes me feel good in a way. It's a wonderful world of mess that we live in. It's like trying to find the end of one single strand of spaghetti in a bowl of spaghetti. It's difficult to do and a waste of time, but it's fun. And this is what we're here to do. We're here to unravel that. We're here to be together, and we're here to make sense of the world, whether we use a Christian viewpoint to do it or not. This is what matters to us. So, are we Christian? Maybe. Maybe not. You're welcome. Thank you. $298. We're going to sing "Wake Now My Senses." Amen. We have arrived at the part of our service where we must extinguish our chalice flame. I invite Janet to come and extinguish our chalice flame for us. This chalice has served as a reminder to us that our time together this morning is sacred, a time set apart by each of us to celebrate the mystery of life that we live together. We are so grateful for your presence this morning. Those of you who have joined us online, thank you again. We love having you. We hope to see you back either online or with us soon as you are able. We will be ending our live stream after our postlude, and we want to thank you for coming. One announcement I forgot to make at the beginning of the service. Craig, our drummer, runs our drum circle. And Craig?
We're going into our second year now, And we'll be doing it on the fourth Sundays of the month. And if you're free this afternoon, my very good friend and West African drummer, Jabata Powell, will be here to lead the drum circle.
So this is what time?
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 o'clock today here in the sanctuary.
Here in the sanctuary, 1 o'clock today for a drumming experience.
Right, and
This
it'll
is
be fourth Sundays. It'll be fourth Sundays moving forward.
right, but on the fourth Sunday, they're able to participate. You'll bring drums; they can drum their little hearts out.
We've
right?
got
Okay.
loaner drums. We've got a handout online. There is a Facebook group, Drumming in the Spirit of Harmony, which I stole from a Sufi group I used to drum with at First UU
They won't
in
notice.
Nolans. Yeah.
Yeah, they'll be fine. But today is more of an experience because you're going to have someone sort of renowned here,
Right. Jabata Powell will be coming, talking about West African rhythms and the June and playing call and response and things like that.
Beautiful. So if you're looking for something to do this afternoon, that sounds very interesting. I ask you now to hear these words. May we go in the course of our week, may we be more and more aware of the communities of which we are a part. May we be more and more of our individual role in those communities. May we be more and more aware of how those communities co-create our journeys with us, and may we be more and more aware of how we co-create their journeys with them. Amen.